Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Hospitable Hosts podcast. I'm Ethan Brown from Hospitable, and I'm super excited for our conversation today because we have Joanne Whitby-Lee from Booking.com. Welcome, Joanne.
Thanks, Ethan. Yeah, super excited to be here today and joining you to talk more about Hospitable and the integration and connection with Booking.com. Thank you for having me.
Yes. No, my pleasure, and I can't wait to get into it. Before we dive into everything Hospitable and Booking.com, I'd love to kind of start high level and if you could tell us a little bit about your role at Booking.com and what you're currently focused on.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess to give some background, I've been at Booking for 10 years now, and more predominantly over the last few years, certainly heading up on a country level for Australia, looking after the commercial team. And within the commercial team, we obviously look after all of our partners across Australia, but a real key focus for myself has been certainly working on the short-term rental market space. And we know that Booking.com has been doing a lot of developments in that space over the last few years. And what's been great is a lot of those developments have come from partners' feedback. So just some of the key initiatives we've primarily been working on is really enhancing that property management that we have for our accommodation partners and allowing us to then improve the guest experience that we're able to offer through our accommodation partners. And overall, my particular efforts are really geared towards making the property onboarding more manageable for our hosts. We want to make that seamless, easy to upload your individual properties because again, when it comes to short-term rental properties, they obviously have a lot of listings that they need to create with us. And by doing that, we're really emphasizing in technology integrations. So, technology is advancing all the time, and we need to ensure as a platform that we're continually innovating and working on what technology we need to be able to simplify these processes for our hosts. And then also actively participating in the industry discussions to make sure that we're continuously fostering growth and innovation within this particular segment.
Wow. Okay. So you're busy. That's I think that's how I would sum it up in the very short term. It's awesome. It's been great to get to work with you and the Booking.com team. And I think what you're working on really ties in with my next question, which is the Booking.com and Hospitable integration. And there's a lot that's been changing with Booking.com in terms of your ability to support hosts, property managers, partners, whatever you want to refer to them as. And then we've also been doing a lot with the Hospitable and Booking.com integration, and we have some exciting developments there. In particular, with the integration, Hospitable has recently become a premier partner of Booking.com. Can you tell me, what does the Premier Partner Program mean for Hospitable and the hosts that are using it?
Yeah. So I guess first of all, I just want to say massive congratulations to Hospitable for and the team there for achieving the status of the Premier Partnership Program. I know that it takes like a lot of time, effort, and innovation and dedication to reach that status. So yeah, I just want to say first of all, massive well done for reaching that. And again, like to your comments, it's been great to work with the Hospitable team and ensuring that we get to that status. To to simplify, I guess, a little bit more, to give a bit more context as to what it actually means to be part of that Premier Partnership Program, is that it means Hospitable as a platform. You're continuously innovating and working towards the connections and the technology that Booking.com also has as a platform. And that means that you're then offering hosts or potential hosts that want to work with Hospitable the best in technology that you possibly can. You're continuously innovating. You have a much broader set of features and functionalities that you can offer to your hosts, which means they then have a lot more control over what they're distributing and how they're distributing. And then a great deal more of stronger quality connections for our mutual partners. So it means the connections there are more timely, they're more efficient, and it really builds a stronger network across the two platforms. The program itself basically allows Booking.com to build a stronger partnership with yourself, with Hospitable. And the review is actually done on an annual basis. So this year, it ticked over in April. and that's when the status comes about. But we make sure that we're reviewing this on an annual basis to make sure that both ourselves at Booking.com and yourselves at Hospitable continue to review and develop what matters most to our property managers or our hosts, because we need to ensure that, like I said, technology is continuously advancing. We need to listen to our hosts and what they need from a connection perspective. And by being part of this program really ensures that we're meeting those criterias. And being a premier partner with us means that you're at the top level of the standard. That's the highest you can basically achieve. So yeah, in summary, strong connections, useful features, and continuously looking at new product testing and that constant feedback loop between the two platforms.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the overview. I think just generally, when I'm speaking to hosts and traveling around Australia, Asia Pacific, and the world, I hear a lot of interest from a lot of our hosts who want to list on Booking.com. Maybe prior to being with Hospitable, they might have only ever been on one channel. And there's a lot of interest. And I think generally within the hosting community, it's known that Booking.com are putting a lot of work into developing new features and integrations with property management softwares like Hospitable. So yeah, it's great that we're able to work and also to reach that level of connection together. One of those features very recently that we've been able to release, and it's not necessarily directly related to the Premier Partner status, but it is one of those really highly requested features where hosts want to be able to easily list onto Booking.com, and you guys with your integration have allowed that to be possible, and we've got around to being able to create that functionality. So what that means within the listing management functionality is that we can actually create listings on Booking.com from within Hospitable. So gone are the days where the listing has to be created directly on Booking.com first, and then you're connecting that to us as a property management software. Just very recently, we've actually been able to create listings from within Hospitable. So that's the first time that's ever been done for us here at Hospitable on any channel. So it's really exciting, and I think it's really going to bring down barriers for new hosts. So if you're a host tuning in today to wonder like, how can I list on Booking.com and how can I do that easily? I've heard in the past it was hard. Definitely make sure you check out that listing management feature. You can go into your properties page directly on Hospitable, and with a few clicks, I've done it myself actually for my listings on the Sunshine Coast, you can create your own listings. So very, very cool features and developments get worked on with Hospitable and Booking.com.
Yeah, I just add to that, Ethan, if that's okay. I absolutely agree, and it's super exciting to see that development from Hospitable. I guess as part of our mission, it is to make it easier for everyone to experience the world, and it's super important that we consider that, obviously, when we're not just thinking about customers that are coming to the platform, but thinking about how we can apply that to our new and existing partners to onboard their properties with us. So Hospitable play a real key role in developing elements like the listing management to enable us to make sure that we're really creating that seamless experience. And like you say, just within a couple of clicks, you can have your properties listed up there on Booking.com. So it's great to see these features being established within the industry, but then also, providers like yourself really jumping on and creating those connections to make sure that we're integrating as we should be.
Yeah, definitely. So you might have already touched on this already, but I'm curious to know, how do developments like this and the Premier Partner status tie in with Booking.com's broader strategy for working with property managers and hosts?
Yeah, so I guess with Booking.com, we've been, and a lot of people probably don't know or realize this, but we've actually been working in the short-term rental market since the year 2000 is when we kind of had our first short-term rental or home property listed on with us. So I guess through that, there's been a lot of advancements, and like I said, we've been doing a lot of work to develop the platform, because we know traditionally we were obviously set up to work with traditional accommodation types such as your hotels, motels. So we've done a lot of work at adapting to what the needs of our hosts or property managers are across that time. So we now see that we're a bit more of a leader in the short-term rental market. Because we've been continuously adapting. But as I mentioned at the start, part of my role is really understanding the feedback from our hosts or our property managers to understand what they need to be able to work more seamlessly with us and make that a more easy operation from their side. And there's a lot of nuances and a lot of differences, so we need to make sure that we're listening to that. And we're really committed to continuously evolving at Booking.com as a platform. And we want to make sure that we are catering to the needs of our short-term rental hosts and property managers.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I guess if I was a Hospitable user tuning in today and listening, I'd probably be curious to know how that specifically impacts me, and how will this change the way that you work with Hospitable and Hospitable hosts.
Yeah. So I think with being part of the Premier partner status now, that means that hosts that choose to work with Hospitable and Booking.com can be assured that the speed of the connection between the two platforms, is really high speed. So it speeds up the support between the two platforms. It also ensures that they've got early access to new solutions, because Hospitable are committed to developing, like we've just touched on, the listing management. They're really committed to making sure that they're developing the new solutions that become available. It greatly benefits hosts by really simplifying that property management process, and it enhances the flexibility and control that they have. Like I say, they, through those connections and through listing management, everything that you have set up in Hospitable, you push through to Booking.com. So your cancellation policies, we display on Booking.com exactly how you would set your cancellation policies, your rates, your availability, everything that you load into there, obviously then projects onto Booking.com.
Awesome. So I'm curious, and we touched on like how it works with Hospitable, but how does the program impact the guest experience on Booking.com? Does it streamline communication or improve booking accuracy or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I would say that it actually bolsters the booking accuracy by having that connection. And like I say, the speed that everything gets updated as well between the two platforms. So, it ensures that the availability and the rates are up to date as much as they can be. So it's sort of that live, up to date availability. As I've touched on, the communication between the two platforms, which really, by having that in place, ensures that the host is providing a real smooth guest experience from the point that they make a reservation right to the point that they check in, because they've received all the information that they need to set those guest expectations. So this really creates like operational efficiency for our hosts, but it also allows them to focus on the guest experience, because it's taken away, having to think and consider about all those options. You can be assured that with having those connections in place, everything is there to set the guest expectation, which then means they can really focus on providing that real great, well-rounded guest experience when they arrive at their door.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. It's definitely something that I've personally benefited from since being a Hospitable user and listing on Booking.com. When I first started out, I didn't have a property management software solution, and I was trying to sync calendars across channels with iCals and getting double bookings. And like this is going way back when I really didn't have the knowledge of the industry, and thinking there must be a better way, and surely there was, and be able to cut out that time and stress worrying about things that can be automated saves a lot more time to be able to put that into the guest experience. And then also, I guess the other side of it is growing your business too. Like if you're saving time automating processes that can be like really easily automated, then you're going to have a lot more time to potentially scaling your business too, which is a lot of what we do here at Hospitable. And then also being able to do that on channels like Booking.com gives you an opportunity to increase your revenue too. So it really is just a multiplier for hosts and property managers. So that's excellent. Thank you. I'm curious, what types of properties or hosts would benefit most from the Booking.com integration with Hospitable?
Yeah, I would say definitely in terms of the connection that we have with Hospitable, certainly the short-term rental hosts would definitely be the ideal partner to work with. Basically, as I touched on, you could be managing one listing or you could be managing multiple listings, and it allows the benefit is really that it creates that streamlined onboarding and enhanced listing management experience for them. So like we say, now versus, or have gone of the days, if you're working with Hospitable and Booking, that you have to go through so many different elements. You might have to be in Hospitable and also then Booking.com to really create your listing management. Now with that new development, you don't have to go through that process. So as you mentioned at the start, Ethan, like a couple of clicks and you can have your listings there and ready to go. And it also really boosts the efficiency. And by also then doing that, you're, as you've just mentioned, like, you're broadening your audience reach, which essentially, because of those automations, you're then, like you say, scaling your business and increasing the bookings and your distribution.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you touched on it really well there, in that it really is the entire short term rental industry in terms of hosts that can be benefiting from the integration, especially like listing management and having listings created on Booking.com. That's benefiting a host with one property, but it can also especially benefit property managers with multiple hundreds of properties. You can imagine the time saved just continues to scale there, not having to go in and create individual properties, having those images and listing details done automatically. That's a really big time save, regardless of your number of properties in your portfolio. So that's excellent. I'd love to go a little bit broader or kind of higher level and pick your brain, just given how much knowledge you have of the industry more broadly. And this is, I guess, Australia, Asia Pacific, or globally, just depending on how you're seeing it. But what are some of the biggest trends you're seeing in the short-term rental market, and how is Booking.com adapting to those trends?
Yeah, so my lens is certainly on Oceania, Australia, New Zealand,
Yeah.
but I do focus a little bit more broadly on the Asia Pacific as well, and looking at what the travel is across Asia Pacific and then also inbound to Asia Pacific. In general, Booking.com throughout the start of this year has certainly observed like a rising interest in short-term rental accommodation travelers. So we definitely see as a platform, whilst we were recognised previously as being more for your traditional types of accommodation, we actually see a large portion of travellers coming to the platform thinking that they were going to book a traditional hotel or motel, and then because we obviously have the short-term rental accommodation listed on there as well, it actually changed their way of thinking. And we've seen a big shift to customers coming to the platform that are now considering shifting to holiday rentals. And also along with that, we see a preference for domestic travel. So I think amidst the economic constraints that we're aware of that's happening at the moment, we certainly see that domestic travel has come back a little bit stronger at the start of this year as well, which is also great. And we're thinking about Australia and the growth within Australia. If we think about the volumes, so we've done some research in the past and we've looked at what is the appetite for people to stay in short-term rental accommodation or holiday rentals, and we know that roughly around 75% of Australians have said that they intend to actually choose a holiday rental the next time they have a domestic holiday. So combining the two together, which is great. And then roughly around about 30% revealed that they have stayed in holiday homes regularly. And then another 10% indicating that they just always stay in holiday homes. So when they come to Booking.com, they're always booking a holiday home in. Wow. And we've continued to see that over time. In regards to I guess other areas that we've seen as a trend is the option for request to book for our hosts. So we've had this now for the last couple of years. It was launched around about 2 years ago, and there's a big desire for our hosts to be able to utilize that functionality, and we've continued to develop that. So now we have the two-way messaging with request to book. And, again, that allows a lot more flexibility and control for our hosts, which, it is great to see that come to fruition, and how quickly that's been developed through the platform. But it's getting really good utilization for those hosts that want to, go through that process before moving to instant book. So it's always a good way to trial a platform as well if you're maybe a little bit hesitant.
That's great. Yeah, I think that just is another great example of a new development that's so highly requested, and for a lot of hosts, it's a necessity to be able to have requests to book on a short term rental, whereas in other more traditional accommodation types that might not be the case. So it's great that you've enabled that, and that's continued to improve over time. And we've been able to do work on our side to be able to support that within Hospitable too, which is excellent. I love those trends that you highlighted there in terms of travel and what you've noticed there. I think I have a feeling that portion, I think it was 10% that you highlighted that are specifically coming for short-term rentals, is going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
It's been an industry trend, when like once you start using short-term rentals, it doesn't matter where you're traveling, often that becomes definitely on your radar for future trips. So that's really interesting, and thank you for sharing. I'm curious for hosts who are hesitant to add another platform, and I've probably got some 2 cents to share here as well. But what would you say to convince them of the value proposition of using Hospitable in conjunction with Booking.com?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand some of the concerns, and we've kind of touched on them. And my time before booking, I was also in accommodation and hotels, and understanding, the challenges of managing your distribution, and making sure that you didn't receive those overbookings, etc., and the concerns that you would have about being on multiple different platforms. So I definitely understand the concerns for people to expand their reach. However, I think we've touched on it through this conversation, but today, with the level of technology and the level of connections that you can have through a platform like yourself, Hospitable, with Booking.com, it's a real great advantage to allow you to use multiple platforms. It's, like I say, it's the ease of having your listings popped up there. It's providing you a much more diverse type of audience that can obviously see and view your particular property. So you're showcasing on multiple channels, basically through, you only have to manage one platform to expose your bookings on multiple different distribution channels, and they will all offer probably a very different type of audience and client through your door. So I would definitely say, now with technology, I understand concerns, and sometimes technology can be scary, but I think definitely with what we have available on our doorstep today, it's worth exploring and worth putting yourself out there. For anyone, I guess, in particular, that was wanting to explore the connection specifically between Hospitable and Booking.com, thinking about the global reach, with Booking.com, for example, we translate everything into 43 different languages. So you only have to upload in your given language, but your listing will be showcased in 43 different languages around the world. So just think about the extended reach that you're getting from that connection. And then, of course, customers also like to work with trusted brands, both from a customer perspective, but also you as a host. You want to know that you're working with a trusted brand, so like Hospitable and Booking.com, to make sure that you feel comfortable in the service that you're receiving. And then it also provides you with the real user-friendly tools that we've also been talking about. So both from the Hospitable side, but we've also done a lot of work on the Booking.com side to make sure that we're creating a platform that you can really self-navigate and that you feel in control of. And then that opens up to a whole suite of products to obviously help optimize your listing on the platform as well.
Amazing. Yep. I completely agree with you. And I think that was my 2 cents that I would share from my own personal listings being added to booking.com. The one thing that you shared there in terms of opening yourself up to a whole new market of guests has been my real experience. You've got, and it was in the trends that you highlighted as well, you've got a whole new audience that might have never searched for a short-term rental property before. They might have never even stayed in one, and a lot of those guests are on booking.com. Maybe they've come from having used a traditional accommodation type in the past, and now they're traveling to your area and they're searching for excellent properties. And by having your listing on that, you're opening yourself up to that audience, which I think is excellent. And it's one of the reasons why the booking.com integration with Hospitable is so powerful. So that's excellent. Thank you. And I think I'm sad because we're quickly running out of time. I think we've got time for one last question. I'd love to know if you could give one piece of advice to short-term rental hosts looking to maximize their success on booking.com, what would that be?
Oh, good question, Ethan. I think with for anyone wanting to list with booking.com, I think from the get-go, there are no sign-up fees. So, you can join and list your property on booking.com, give it a go, trial it, like we say, with the connections that you can have through Hospitable into booking.com. You can be reassured that, with a couple of clicks, you're there, everything is up and running. And, as we just mentioned, you're then reaching a whole new audience by doing that. In terms of then potential optimization, we obviously have our Genius program, which really attracts our real high value and repeat customers to the platform. So the members that tend to be in the Genius program typically book a lot more frequently on the platform. They cancel a lot less, and they're more likely to leave real positive reviews because they're experienced travelers. They know what they're looking for. They can find a quick match when they come to booking.com as to where they want to stay. So you're increasing your visibility also to those types of potential customers. I think, outside of that, I guess not so much in terms of an how you maximize, but we do also have a local team on the ground. So this is where, we're able to have those direct connections with the team at Hospitable. And, we're constantly talking on a day-to-day basis. So we have a team based here in Australia that are always there at hand to help if you do have any questions about onboarding and how you can really optimize your listing right from the get-go once you've signed up with booking.com. So yeah, there's a window of opportunities. But if I had to highlight one, I would definitely say, yeah, the Genius program is really one of our strong investments that we're doing. And for anyone that doesn't know, we also have the connected trip. So we're now we're able to offer, flights, accommodation, ground transport, and our Genius offering is branching across all of those different verticals too. So even by you being in it from an accommodation perspective, we're drawing in Genius customers from different verticals, which again gives you additional exposure to that type of guest coming to the platform.
That's amazing. I think that could probably be a topic for a whole another episode because there's so much to unpack there as well. So maybe we'll have to get you on again so we can dive a bit further into that and some of the benefits for hospitable hosts. Thank you so much for your time, Joanne. I really appreciated having you on and you sharing your knowledge with our audience. And I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed the session. It did fly by. 30 minutes went so quick. But yeah, thank you. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you.